It's now safe. But before we start, ladies and gentlemen, the king. Right, welcome to another one of these. We are merry. We're out of our minds because we didn't lose in Europe last night. And we've got a special guest there with Chris. Oh, and there's a dolly in the mouth. I don't know, it could be a rabbit or a goldfish, who knows?
Can't you recognise a banana? Didn't you used to watch Eric for me?
Sorry.
Shame
The
me.
bananas I've seen recently are slightly different shape to that. But listen, we had a great night last night. I think we can all say we're going to critique the game because we didn't win like 10-0, but it was a creditable draw. I don't think that's an unkind phrase. But we've now got it all to go. And just to set the tone and, just to show a bit of willing, I've done this without you all sat there waiting while I'm clicking, going, oh, yeah, hang on a minute. The betting for the next leg is very interesting. It is a cigarette paper in the favour of the Germans. And I think the business of the velodrome, or whatever you want to call it, that sort of atmosphere they're going to have is going to count for something. Certainly gave our fans a lesson in noise making, but rather not so much the fans themselves, but perhaps Daniel Levy and his airbrushed participants. So, Tony, if you want to kick us off in no particular order, what are your thoughts, just on the game itself?
Yeah, as you say, it was a creditable performance in the end. First half was a little bit hit and miss for a while. Great goal by Frankfurt. Really good strike by Ekitike.
He had a good game, didn't he?
He did. He looked very dangerous. I suspect he's going to be a much more of a handful at home. I suspect he will be. Yeah. But we kind of rode the storm a little bit because the Germans came out in the first 5-10 minutes were right at it. We rode that. They got the goal, but we kind of didn't panic too much, and then scored an absolute quality goal. Absolute quality.
Porro's goal was insane. If you watch that back, I mean, in the heat of the moment, you go wow and jump off your seat. But actually watching it back, and there was a bit of artistry going on there. We haven't seen that sort of thing from a Spurs player in a while.
It started from the pass from Son to Solanke. Solanke doing the run, then going back to Maddison. Maddison beating the man, and then obviously passing to Porro. So that was the cracking move. That was so many parts were involved in that move, and the finish was just. That'll be on the repeat cycle for God knows how long that will be.
Sublime, darling, sublime.
Oh, it was. If it was a piece, if that moment was food, it would be delicious. It was just that good. It really was.
It was very, very good.
Yeah. It was great to see that. And then the first half, kind of everybody settled down and it kind of neutralised itself for a little bit. It wasn't really much going on after that. We threatened we pressured without really threatening. I would say in the rest of the first half. The second half, completely different.
That's what she said.
Were you in the room?
Most of me, Your Honour.
But second half, though, I think completely different kettle of fish. Came out high press, pushed, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to slightly negative, but I'm going to go back to positive. And there's no such thing as footballing gods. There's no such thing as footballing gods. It's just football. All right? It's just football. It's the way it happens. And we just didn't get that goal. Mickey at the end, just a bit, any sort of decent contact, that would have been in. End of story. But it just didn't happen for us. But I can't fault the lads in the second half. I think they really did give as much as they could possibly do in the second half. But I don't think we can play like that against Frankfurt away. That's the only thing I'd say. We've kind of left. Whilst 1-1 is not a defeat, obviously it's a draw. It doesn't. We should have, and we really wanted to be going to Frankfurt with a lead.
Chris,
yeah, much the same. Really, I was happy that it wasn't a defeat, but disappointed that I thought we should have got far more from the game. I didn't think they were as great as people were giving them credit for. I thought they gave us a lot of the ball. They were very wide open at times, but I thought. If it hadn't been for the anonymity of our front three, we'd have got far more from the game. I thought, again, Johnson was completely anonymous. He was like somebody in witness protection on the right side. Nobody saw him. On the left, it was much the same from Son, consistent with what we've seen or haven't seen all season. And there comes a period where you've got to be bold and you've got to be brave and you've got to make decisions for the benefit of the team, and there's going to come a point where he's got to leave him out. And then in the central position, Solanke really didn't offer anything. And I think I saw a statistic the other day about his performance as being putting him in the bottom 45% of forwards in the top 5 European leagues. And the end result was that had we had better offensive players, and if we had better players in the striking positions, I think we could have walked away with that with a 3-4-1 victory. It's all going to come down to, is it the Tottenham DNA of old, always failing on the big occasion, or are we going to go to the intimidating stadium in Germany next Thursday and get the result? Time will tell, but we've been Tottenham fans for long enough to perhaps know how this plays out.
I thought I just wanted to jump in on a sort of couple of player points there. You mentioned our toothless sort of front three. There was a real uniformity throughout. In fact, the midfield. In fact, all of our attacking forward line players just gave the ball away a lot under pressure, and there appeared to be not just a disconnect, but an inability to keep the ball. Just want to put one thing on the record, so to speak. Talk of Solanke or Solanke or whatever his name is. Can we all? I don't mean this to you two, but I mean just as I'm speaking to the human race here. Can we lose this talk about being good at holding up the ball and good at making cakes and good at doing charity work because he's a bloody striker and I want goals?
The stat that slipped my mind that I referred to is Dom Solanke is averaging 0.34 non-penalty goals per 90 minutes for Spurs. This places him in the bottom 45 percentile of all forwards across Europe's big 5 leagues.
Yeah, well, and let's have that right, because I don't think there is a percentile statistic for what a nice guy he is, or how he looks after his ailing mother, or he does ironing for local school children on Sunday nights or whatever it might be. I'm just getting it. It's beginning to grate a little bit, and I noticed on a few different, not the Substack, but I've noticed on a few forums this morning, this is becoming a recurring theme, and people are using it as a sort of default go-to excuse card to say, well, his hold-up play and his general blah blah blah, and the runs that he tried to make. Sorry, he is a bloody striker, and I want goals, and I don't think that's unreasonable. It's like making excuses for a goalkeeper that lets the ball in the back of the net a lot of the time. Yes, I know other players can be involved and responsible, defenders and so forth, but at the end of the day, you want a goalkeeper that saves the ball, and you want a striker who buries the damn thing, and we're just simply not getting that. And I thought it was quite telling that when they brought on Richarlison, and go back to your stat of virtually every show we do, Chris, 120 million quid's worth of firepower up there, and this just reminds me of the guy going to fend off the zombies in the cellar with a rolled up newspaper in his hand. I mean, totally underwhelmed by those two.
Another couple of observations is you can't knock him because a doggy played well, but Spence, why was he excluded from the starting 11 after he'd probably been one of our most consistent players of late? And earlier in the season, Archie Gray was single-handedly alongside Bergvall saving Postecoglou, and he was being played at centre-back, right-back, left-back, goalkeeper, not central defensive midfield. But now he seemingly can't get anywhere near a starting berth, can he?
Well, I have a theory, because I don't have anything nice to say about Postecoglou, because it's all based on lived experience of dealing with the guy week in, week out. Just throw this in before I forget. I forgot to mention, I rattled off a piece in relation to his press conference thing where he was belligerent about something or other. But there was another moment where, I don't know if you guys caught it, but somebody, because we're in a press room and there's going to be a bit of noise. Now, you don't want people answering their phone or chatting about what they had for dinner last night, but there's going to be a little bit of scuffle, chairs moving, blah. You couldn't hear it on the cameras because you couldn't hear it on the microphones because you can't hear anything on the microphones there. But clearly there was somebody at the back And Ange just said, did the old, sorry, am I interrupting you? Now, for a guy in 14th or 16th or whatever we are, his arrogance, I'm just finding unchecked. And I just think that's worth a mention. But in relation to those two players, I have a theory. One is that, don't forget, Jed Spence, he didn't want on the plane with him when they went into Europe last year. That was his original decision, that he didn't want him on the plane. And then he was forced to crumble because then we had injuries and he was forced to play Spence in the league. And we saw how decent Spence was. And with relation to Gray, he's just picked up a really nice award. Really nice award, black tied job. I can't remember the exact name. It's like Young Footballer of the Year or something like this. Yeah, that's it. That's it. London Football. And perhaps did he come in with too much of a spring in his step? Because I've got a feeling you cross Ange and he lets you know. He really lets you know. And we've been hearing mumbles from within Hotspur Way about his gruff attitude and his kind of aloofness and standoffishness with the players and all the rest of it, which have yet to make it into a mainstream media thing. But we've seen evidence of bits and pieces online, and I just think with those two players, they may well have inadvertently fallen foul of him. Which, considering the age difference, is like your headmaster at your school taking umbrage with a 12-year-old. In one of the classes, and I just don't put it past him. But on a positive though, I have to say I thought Lucas Bergvall and Rodrigo Bentancur were very close to being what we need in the midfield. Maddison did his utmost. I think that midfield is missing a key player, but Bergvall in particular was giving little, I don't want to over egg the pudding, but little flashes of superstardom. He was agitating, lots of give and go, making himself available, appears to read the game very well. And wow, what a lovely shot. And very unfortunate it just didn't get underneath the crossbar. But what a great player he is. Great player.
I think the difference last night was he wasn't running around like a headless chicken. Actually seemed to be purpose in what he was doing. Yeah, and there was commitment from both of them. Both of them were very much in tune with each other last night. And it just sort of begs the question, where has that been all season? I know that there's been injuries and things have been moving around, but when they're together, I want to speak about this injuries thing as well in a sec. But when they're together, that understanding is crucial to us because that's what protects your back four or your back three and whatever your formation you're playing. But that's also what then actually projects you forward. And I also agree with you. Where in the midfield, Maddison's a good player. He can pass out wide. But I think he lacks a killer pass. He lacks a killer pass where it's a defense splitting pass, if you like, where he just completely turns everybody. That's one thing he does lack. He's very prone to passing it off to people unless he sees a pass to the. Typically, a lot of his passes are out to the wings, and there's nothing wrong with that if it's in a good position. And last night I thought he had a decent game. It was a bit surprising he got taken off, to be bluntly honest with you. That was a bit of a strange one for me because I thought he was probably. In that midfield, they were all playing well, so they weren't the ones you wanted to spoil. But hey ho, that's another thing. But on this other thing about injuries, I've heard this, for the last 8 weeks or something like that. Well, if we'd have had them all, if we'd have had all these players, we'd have been much better off and all that. Oh, yeah, right. For fuck's sake! Did anybody watch the first few games of the season where we had a full squad? Come on, let's just have a heavy dose of realism here. First of all, you don't know. If we'd have had all the players, whether we'd have been any better off, because that's not the way things work. Okay, simple as that. But secondly, if your manager can't, you've got a squad for a reason, and it's up to your manager to get a tune out of the squad and to make sure they understand it, regardless of injuries. Other teams have had injuries. Bournemouth have had injuries. Fulham have had injuries. I'm sorry, the injuries thing is a complete red herring, and it needs to be buried because I'm sick of hearing it.
I agree with you, and I would simply tag on to that, which is just totally alongside that, quite natural fits, not shoehorning it in, but you rotate your squad. What is the point of having all of these kids in the squad and not using them? And that's where we've been with Ange. And as I said there in relation to Jed Spence, he only got his break because Laughing Boy didn't have any other choices. And he left him off the plane to Europe, which I'm going to keep banging on about because I thought it was a completely irrational, stupid thing to do. And he took more goalkeepers than he could ever possibly need unless there was a plane crash. And then last night's game, if you had a look online and on all the boards and all the rest of it, everybody was saying the same thing. What's the deal with Spence? Has Spence upset him?
Yeah.
And this is a recurring theme because they've also been in relation to Maddison. What's the deal with Maddison? He does appear to make decisions which I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying without rhyme or reason, a big selection of the fan base are taking the line with it. Oh, it must be they've had a clash because there doesn't appear to be any logical reason.
When it substituted him and he was sat on the bench supping on his bottle of mineral water, body language said everything, and that looked like a bloke who was thinking, why have you withdrawn me? He looked thoroughly pissed off. And
totally.
I was reading some comments coming out the club after a result of, was it Chris Davis, the Birmingham manager, winning promotion with the Blue Noses the other night. And they were saying that Ange doesn't like players approaching him. He doesn't have a good relationship directly with his team, with his staff or his playing staff. And you're thinking, how's that beneficial for anybody? If players don't know where they stand, they can't engage with him and tell him their thoughts. And if anybody crosses him, it's my way or no way at all. And 100% you can get that when you look at that fella.
It also this I have to say, adding again my experience of the world to things. This again neatly marries with the, as we know, which exists in the real world, that third-rate managers recruit fifth-rate staff. And those people don't tend to be particularly empathetic. They don't tend to be particularly nurturing in nature. And they tend to be a little bit narcissistic, a little bit my way or the highway. And these are the vibes that we're getting off of Ange, and they predate him coming to Tottenham. Yet it persists. Again, if we're going to talk about putting stuff into room 101 or into the skip or we throw it into the sea or whatever language you want to use, along with the Solanke thing and the injury thing, I think cuddly, affable Ange needs to be resigned to history. Hopefully, they're going to just throw him out with with the recycling at the end of the season anyway. I've got a feeling if he loses in Germany, they might pull the trigger a bit quicker. Because I think the whole thing is going to collapse if we lose in Frankfurt.
So I had a pleasant 3-hour commute around the M25 this morning, and during that journey, I had Talk Sport pumping out the speakers.
I would have got out of the car. I would have got out of the car and walked off if somebody did that to me.
I've always had a certain bit of tolerance for Raymond Vega, but when Raymond Vega was on this morning, saying that you could see by the boys' effort and their determination and their commitment and performance last night that they're all playing for Ange Postecoglou and that he deserves another season at the club. That's when my opinion.
Stick to making money, mate. Stick to making money because you certainly haven't got a career as a pundit.
Ramon Vega, I've followed online. Like I've been aware of, witnessed him for some time. And let me tell you about all the things about that man that you could possibly say. The fact that intelligence isn't one of them. If he's making money, it's because he's got advisors, either that or he's a little bit on the spectrum and he's got that sort of auto thing that he's got going on whereby he can just, with the numbers all floating around in front of him. Good luck to him on that front. But his judgment, his calls on Spurs are always late. You'll see him come out and say, I don't think so and so. And I go, mate, we've been saying this a year ago. So the reason, if the players were pepped up for last night, I'll tell you for why. And it's not like I've got some, inner knowledge. It's because A, they're on their triple money ding ding bonus, like when lit bonus that they get for the big opponent games. And B, it's European football. They're more motivated than they will be playing Wolves that's coming up on Sunday at 2:00. So, yeah, Vega Schmega. I understand you had it on TalkSport. Honestly, if I couldn't switch that off and I was on the M25, and this is why I don't drive, I would have just got out of the car and walked off. and to hell with the consequences. That would drive me up their bloody wall. Ramon Vega too. No, they weren't playing for him. They weren't playing for him at all. I think they were playing for themselves. I think I know it's at the lower tier and all the rest of it, but I think playing in Europe, a little bit of self-respect kicks in. And to their credit, that was very evident in the second half.
That actually looked like a team in the second half, didn't it? It actually looked like a team in the second half for some reason.
But, why do you have to say but? Why can't you just enjoy it? You sound
horrible. You doing
dirty words. I wanted to be happy. Was it Ange Ball? Did anybody see any Ange Ball there?
Nope.
I saw guys who can play football there, and I'm not against that. I'm pro football, yeah. I'm not against that, but I didn't see anything that has any link back to that particular coach. It's like when you see a Spurs side on the occasional exciting edge under Conte or Mourinho. And don't like him. But under them, you can see where it's come from. It stemmed from the template that coach has in place. And you can see that under various managers. Under Ange, I don't recognise any of this.
Mate, a clock is right. A broken clock is right twice a day, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, I it's not being mean-spirited to not. I mean, I noticed on a forum on Facebook, Tony, this morning, somebody said, "Are we giving Ange any credit then?" And all the answers came in. Leave it out. Shut up, you tart. You know, nothing, and nasty memes of people going and walking off. But there was nobody going, "Yes, he's my hero." I mean, you've got to be absolutely out of your mind, and that takes us full circle back to that big, cuddly, affable Aussie routine, because he's not. He's absolutely horrible. He's a horrible, morbidly obese narcissist, is what he is.
He needs to be big and cuddly like Chris B. That's what he needs to be.
Exactly. If only he could be like Baloo Bear from the Disney's Jungle Book in real life, whilst eating half a cow and washing it down with 6 bottles of very expensive red wine, and telling little stories to small children who were passing.
And say to them, "'Tis but a snack."
'Tis but a snack.
Yeah.
I think you've got the wrong impression of me, you two.
Fortunately, I always carry a spare in case I've run out of bottle of wine.
Chris, why has that trailer got a cow in it?
So what do we think in the cold light of day after the euphoria of not losing, which I think is as much of it as half of it? What do we think is going to happen against Wolves on Tuesday on Sunday afternoon? Any thoughts on that?
We're going to come up against a team probably with a little bit more urgency and, dare I say, quality around them. The Germans were good, but I don't think that they've got the hustle and bustle of the Premiership players, of your Kunas and your Bellegardes and Ryan O'Nory and some of the others. And I think Wolves will probably want it more. And I think they've got a better coach than us.
Wolves are 17th, which I don't think we can just casually dismiss. But I do absolutely agree with you in so much of them wanting and needing it more. I think there is going to be some urgency there, because for them, and this is the painful truth, the big difference between them and us is that they are looking very likely to get sucked into that third relegation spot. Whereas for us to get sucked into that third relegation spot, we'd need the luck of the Irish and everything else you can muster together, as well as us, absolutely tanking it.
But there's only 5 points between us and Wolves, though.
That's what I'm saying. But they're still beneath us, though. I know there's only 5 points, but 5 points. They want to make that less than
2
5
points.
They want to make it 2 points. Yeah, exactly. And they'll feel that they should be able to, because they haven't played in Europe, so they can put out whatever is their quality top side, which has kept them in 17th. Let's not delude ourselves. But I think that they'll feel that with their resources and their desire might just get them over the line. I mean, they take a draw, they take anything. you know. Yeah, so I just think that's going to be an interesting game to watch.
Well,
And
I think his team selection will be interesting as well, won't it?
Yeah,
because is he going to rest players because he's got the game obviously in Germany on Thursday, or is he going to play them all again and think there's 5 days between it?
Is he going to rest his star man Sonny? Because I bet you he does, because they're away from home. So the Korean factor, they are away from home, aren't they? We're at Wolves, aren't we? We're at Molyneux on Sunday.
Yeah, Molyneux, yeah, your neck of the woods.
Yeah, a bit close. But yeah, so I think he'll rest Sonny because he's not got any Koreans coming through the turnstiles to placate. And it'll be interesting to see how we get on. So I think he will do a bit of resting, and I think we'll see Richarlison start, because he was talking about this in the press conference, and this is another one of his little naiveties came out. He was talking about the possibility of extra time.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you just give us your tactic notes? Just hold them up to the camera. I mean, we all know it could go to extra time. Thanks very much. That's not like a mind-blowing secret. But to discuss that as being in the public domain, as being part of your thought process, I just find a bit strange.
And another player that's disappeared, completely disappeared. Remember when he was saying that it was important for Dane Scarlett to get minutes, and he was throwing him in, and he came on and scored against Elfsborg with the header, but not criticising or saying he should be. But again, he's not been on the bench. He's not been in the squads. He's seemingly in the Bermuda Triangle.
Maybe
and Scherger.
Maybe it's funny.
In fact,
Bermuda Triangle. We don't hear much. We don't hear much about. We don't hear much of the Bermuda Triangle since the advent of the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
We used to sell a lot of paperbacks off of that, but now everybody can see everything.
They can bring you another shirt back.
Chariots of the gods, man. Chariots of the gods, man.
Yeah, chariots of the gods, man. We're all going there, baby. This is a great shirt. It's very warm here, actually, in deepest, darkest Birmingham. But anyway.
So, I'm just looking at. Sorry,
but Scarlett. Just finish up on this. Yeah. But with Scarlett, could it be that Fat Ange is a white supremacist?
Could well be.
I don't know. Has Mikey Moore got some South African blood in him or something? You don't know. You don't know any of these things. And I think we should be asking those questions.
Oh, here we go. I was just asking a question, he says.
I mean, I was humbly positing an idea. I don't know if he's into the whole white pointy hat thing and burning crosses. I don't know.
Submit a freedom of information request to Tottenham. Go for it.
Only £100.
Yeah, go for it.
Information's £100. That's all it is, folks.
Hey, H, here's your mic. You can drop it now, mate.
or rather, can you just remove it?
Yeah. I was just looking at Eintracht Frankfurt's stats at home. That in 14 games they've won 8, drawn 3, and lost 3. So they're absolutely that's it is pretty much, and with the noise they're going to have as well. It's going to be a real tough one.
I thought their fans were immense.
I'd say
they were great last night, weren't they?
That goalkeeper looked the business, didn't he?
Didn't he just? Santos, yeah. He looked absolutely cracking, didn't he?
A bit shaky initially, but my God, some of those saves, especially the Mickey van der Ven's header late in the game, you're thinking, yeah.
I think you look at him and then you look at Vicario and you go, I wonder.
Yeah, I don't think anybody makes any noises as excited as who's over the age of 12.
It must have been a difficult night for you two. Tottenham playing a German side. You must have been marching around your living rooms.
Stepping. I was just simply mumbling under my breath, "Ich bin ein Berliner" occasionally, and that sort of diffused the whole thing.
I have no idea what you are talking about.
Were you
we're going to meet again as friends?
Were you wearing your lederhosen again, Tone?
Mine was chafing. I think I bought a low quality one.
Mate, that's just at the weekends, mate, when my name is Mandy. So
Manfred.
When your name is Mansion.
Mansion, yeah.
But no, it was tough. It was tough watching the master race, trying to take on my number one team. But it was great to be back in Europe.
It suddenly dawned on me last night that if just by chance we were to stumble into the final, you looked at the results around you and you would have never have thought that the Norwegians would have got
God,
in.
that was amazing. That was amazing, wasn't it?
So you think they're going to have to go away to Italy and just shut shop from the outset. But you think if they made it into the final and then Rangers, bit crap, and then you looked at the other game, Manchester, whilst they've got Onana, everybody's got a chance. And you imagine if we slipped through the final and God forbid the footballing gods were smiling and we actually won that game. Imagine what would happen to us in the Champions League next season. We'd be bent at that table and people would be doing really naughty things to us beyond our control.
Well, I tell you what, it occurred to me when you mentioned the footballing gods reference from Ange. The trouble is with people's brains, and I speak from personal experience here and the stepping out of my role as a pop psychologist, but the trouble with people's brains is once you put something in there, unless you sort of do some neuro-linguistic deprogramming to pull it out, it stays there. And I think he had it in his head because he'd run out of bloody excuses, because he can't criticise the pitch at home. He can't criticise the fans anymore because that's blown up in his face 3 times already this season. Everybody gets the same weather, but the footballing gods is a very old phrase. It's sort of like echoes of, the gods are not smiling on us this morning, Centurion, and all that sort of thing. And I think he was planning to use that if we lost, because it struck me as a strange one to wheel out as an excuse, given that we were still in the competition.
It's that sort of behavior, that sort of phrase is what you'd expect of a narcissist who can't accept he's not at fault.
Yeah.
That's what it is. No, it wasn't us, and it wasn't me. It was the footballing gods. And it's just
it's like you go to a restaurant and the meal is bad, and you'll say, "Oh, the gods aren't with us today because they brought out the 3rd dish in a row that's wrong, or put the wrong drinks down on the table." And it's just like throwing it into the long grass. Like, what can we do? What can we do? There's no point in shouting at people. There's no point in getting up and storming out. If you can manage to eat a lasagna that you didn't order, just get it inside you and write the whole thing off as a bad thing, and we might not come here again. But it's one of those things where you can't apply any rhyme or reason or logic to a situation. You go, "Oh, the gods are against us."
Yeah, but what it does is a deflection thing. It deflects away.
It's a massive deflection thing because nobody wins. Nobody wins and says
it's something you can't argue against.
The gods are with us today. Nobody says that. Nobody.
You can't. It's something you can't argue against because it has no substance. But therefore you can't say it's right and you can't say it's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, blaming stuff on misfortune and bad luck is a very sticky wicket for a football manager, because you are there to manage the circumstances and the situations, and it's your job, dare I say it, to coach players. I mean, we mentioned there before about Bentancur and Bergvall finding a little bit of something there between them. Fantastic. But where did they get that from? I have a feeling they struck it up themselves as they were sort of training, or as they playing together for the umpteenth time. Which is what footballers tend to do.
Well, one of the things we've seen consistently, haven't we? One of the things we have seen consistent. One of the things we can evidence, because there is no, it's a bit slight. It's not quite oxymoronish, but it does contradict itself. But there is evidence of the lack of evidence of input from the coaching staff,
and the fact. Dare I say it? Oh, don't say these nasty words.
Oh, no, he's doing the words.
It's not fair. But none of them have got a CV that's worth a wank. That's the reality. All of them are on the dole professionally. And if their CV fell through your letterbox or through your recruiting company or whatever, you'd immediately swipe left on the whole thing and just get rid.
The people who've got CVs are the ones that Levy and co regularly lets go. the Mitchells
Well,
of this world, the
but this is-
Davies of this world, all that sort of thing.
I mean, the idea, it's like, as Chris pointed out to us on the group chat yesterday, the business with Todd Klein going to Chelsea as an
Yeah.
executive.
Yeah, then you
Immediately,
subsequently made a video about you charlatan, you.
pigs in Spain.
Credit whore. He's just a credit whore, isn't he? That's what he is.
I'd like to thank absolutely nobody. I wasn't even born. I didn't have a
What,
mother.
Chris, mate, what you got to put that down to is the advertising gods.
Yeah.
But no, but the idea because Todd Klein, the backstory to that is we all know it, but it's whatever. But Klein was brought in after Levy had done the thing in house himself, and they published a book. They got a book published. It wasn't a brochure; it was a book, and I was sent photos of it. It went out to blue chip companies, and nobody wanted to know. And then they farmed it out. They outsourced it to a marketing company in the West End of London. I think it's in Fournier Street, which I used to go to in a previous life. They gave it back because they weren't getting anywhere. And then they took it back in-house for a considerable period of time, and they didn't get anywhere. And then they hired Todd Klein, who didn't get anywhere. And I asked in the video, was there a continual one individual in that equation, in that those various aspects of people trying to get a job done? And the answer is yes, Daniel Levy.
Yeah, meddling, refusing to let go, and refusing to empower to let people do what you're employing them and bringing them in to do.
And as I've said to you before, from my perspective of the great thing with that venue that they've pitched, they've put up front and center, is an NFL deal that has stalled. Whether you want to use that word or not is your choice, but I'm using it because it hasn't grown. It's not got bigger. So it's stalled. And it's so anonymous, which they have taken into their minds that it's this blank canvas, it's this chameleon. No, it doesn't actually have any identity. And it's not known, it's not linked with winning.
5 years, 6 years now since the stadium opened, and our master businessman has still failed to secure a sponsor for the naming rights. I think the other Chris said on the chat yesterday, even if they'd have paid 60 quid for it, it would have been 60 quid a year more than what we're getting right now.
Well, as you said, Tony, you pointed out months ago, there is one word associated with this club, Spursy, and it's a pejorative.
Yeah.
It's shocking, but that's the problem. You see, if the problem with a blank canvas is that it's all very crisp and serene, and all you've got is that cockerel on a ball logo thing up there on the outside, and everything else is digital. So it can, like as they've proved, you can have Beyonce or Guns N' Roses or whatever, and change all the merch around. So you're selling NFL crash helmets and all the rest of it. Wonderful. But it doesn't actually have any character, any identity. There's no sort of core, pure messages there, which anybody in a commercial environment is looking to kind of tap into in some respect. They want to be associated with something beyond their brand, because they can go and stick their brand on anything. They can stick it on the side of Big Ben, but if you stick it on the side of Big Ben, what are you saying there? Well, it was very English, very quintessentially blah, blah, blah. So all those things, Big Ben has an identity to it. And so this is why you get, for example, Rolex wants to be associated with Wimbledon, and you have the Cartier Polo. These things bring with them a synergy between your brand and their product that kind of fits together. It's like having, is it Robinson's orange juice they have at Wimbledon?
Yeah, that's right. The squash,
barley sugar or whatever it's called. All that sort of.
Yeah.
But these are natural things that work together. And if you look at the Spurs Stadium, what are they bringing to the table? What are they bringing to the party? And as I frequently said, what does Daniel Levy bring to the party? He brings empty bottles, dead hookers, and disinterested-looking dwarves. There is no magic about what that guy has in his armory. Nothing at all. This is a bookkeeper that kind of got lucky. And that we're now seeing the fruits of his labour, where we're in the dying embers, 14th or whatever we are in the table. And he's got a coach that he can't sack, because the moment he does so, everybody is going to be writing the same articles that they've written over the years, but a bit more kind of like, is this the right guy doing the recruiting? The burden of expectation is going to be, and the spotlight glare is going to be full on him. So that's the position we're in. But
I think it certainly will be if they lose next week. If they lose, if they lose next week, certainly that weight of that expectation will definitely be there.
If we get beaten next week, you can't have this guy wandering around doing his I thought we were quite good in the second half.
Footballing gods.
Footballing gods, the law of averages. My chewing gum lost its flavour on the bedpost overnight. All this toffee.
The thing that's got to really be a wake-up call, and we can't bury our head in the sands and forget, is look what happened to our North London neighbours the other night, where they absolutely tore Real Madrid, supposedly one of the best footballing teams in the world, a new arsehole. And it's embarrassing that they could easily put themselves in the final, and they're a good side. They've got some good players, and Declan Rice, those two free kicks the other night were belters. And you've got an owner who clearly doesn't care. All it is a revenue. It's an income generation machine. It is a brand. Doesn't care the slightest about on-field success. But we're just going to get left further and further and further behind. And today, in the space of an hour, Liverpool announcing that they've agreed to pay Mohamed Salah 400 grand a week for the next 2 years, 1.6 million a month. And they're doing the same with Virgil van Dijk. Everybody around him is moving forward. We're kicking water, stuck in quicksand, and we're not getting any closer to the coastline, but we're not getting any further out from it either.
But every time we talk about money, all the thing that come out is, but at least we're financially sustainable. We're not going to do a Leeds and all that sort of stuff. Well, guess what? Liverpool are financially sustainable. Arsenal are financially stable.
We sit at home. Do any of us three sit at home getting semi-aroused around books and bookkeeping and
that depends the type of book you're talking about.
These are books. Those are the books.
Well, since he got this hooky fire stick, he's been telling me about his viewing habits, and they are.
Yeah, Tony's out of control. To be honest with you, mate, but he doesn't come out of his room. He just gets committed to put beans on toast under the door.
I have no idea what you're talking about, and I can neither confirm nor deny.
A stick of fire, mate.
The game's about glory, isn't it? As fans, we want success. We want to see big, polished, shiny, blingy trophies adorning our trophy.
Careful where you were heading there for a moment.
Yeah. We don't, as long as the club's managed in a really responsible way, it's not our money. We've been there with Irving Scholar. We've been there in the bad times. Look, I'm so desperate for success. I'd have some spurious company with a questionable human rights record coming in from Saudi Arabia or Qatar, and
I'm actively looking for a Bond villain to take us over.
I think they cut people's hands off if
you say you're looking for a company with a spurious human rights record. We've already got that with old Patagonia Joe, haven't we?
Patagonia Joe, mate.
Don't forget, Uncle Joe's got nothing to do with the club.
No, of course he hasn't. Yeah.
What's that, Skip? The villagers are dead. I mean, just to put it into perspective, for those of you joining us late, if you want to, because this is one of the things that we get thrown at us occasionally, that we're no spring chickens. Let me tell you.
You're at least 15 years older than I.
Well, I'm just in the middle of something, Chris, if you don't mind. So,
how rude these young upstarts are.
I know. Am I interrupting something here, mate? But my first game at Spurs was in the West Stand that Scholar built, and it was part of it was Bill Nicholson's testimonial against West Ham, and I went with my dad. Now we were your absolute atypical don't go every week customers. Flew in from Germany to go to the game.
Was that on the Wright brothers plane?
No, it was in the Zeppelin that caught fire.
I was going to say, did you fly via a Messerschmitt or something like that? Don't mention the war.
Got a special Stuka bomber rate, but we were the equivalent of the mugs going to Spurs now and going, oh, look at the stadium, it's amazing.
And when the camera panned out, you were there with your mobile phones taking photos of one of the players at the time.
Well, no, what we were actually, because we were under a black cloak with a tripod of the camera, and then occasionally this.
Thank God it wasn't a white one.
And it was and the pictures were in sepia, so I don't know.
Absolutely, what cannot move cannot lie. That was our tag phrase of our video business at the time. Still images for those of you still unable to leave the house. But we were the same. We cut from the same cloth as the mugs going to the stadium in the 21st century. Oh, it's amazing! Isn't it amazing? So we've been here before. Don't get sucked in by it and demand more of your club. And again, I'm going to give them another shout out, Change for Tottenham. And anybody else who feels that this ought to be a primarily focused football club, opposed to an entertainment centre for morons. But if he loses in Germany, he's in a world of pain. And as I opened the thing with, the odds are not as they were for this game. And the Germans at the moment are just a little bit closer in.
I went to both games in '84,
Right.
home and away, and it's probably one of the greatest footballing nights of my life. Being in the shed, I was in the shed at the time when Tony Park saved that penalty against Anderlecht. And I'm sorry, I've never experienced anything like that in anything to do with football.
Do you know one of the most treasured things I had as a kid? You were at that game. My dad was in the British Army and he went to work and he came home and he gave me a copy of the Daily Mail because we got like X hours of TV on BFBS in the afternoon. It started like 6 and went closed down at 10 or something. It was dreadful. So as for seeing a game, I listened to it on the radio and that was about it. But one of my treasured possessions, I had it for years and I lost it at some point. It was a Daily Mail, and on the back it had a blurry black and white photo and all the lights, thing. Super dramatic. And you were there. That's amazing.
Oh, mate, the whole shed. It was, and this is like health and safety. This is the days before health and. I mean, don't get me wrong. Health and safety, absolutely, 100%. Of course, it is. But these are the days before health and safety really was health and safety, and they had us so far packed in. When Tony Park saved the penalty, we all jumped up, and I don't think my feet actually touched the floor again.
When you landed, there was something very liquid-like in your pocket.
Probably was. But the point I'm trying to make is those nights, you never ever forget them. You really never ever do. And we have been so starved of those types of events and those starts of nights. And this all comes back to Levy and about the way this financially sustainable club. We want to be financially sustainable and successful. Well, we got one of them right. You just got the other one so fucking badly wrong that you can't see that. As you said, Chris, Arsenal are just leaps and bounds ahead of us now, and it's embarrassing. When we're not even noisy neighbours anymore. We're not in the same postcode.
No, and it's interesting you say that because the perception and the optics and the whole way of people thinking has changed so dramatically. Because like when I was a kid, you go to a fun fair and you wouldn't even think about health and safety. It was just like incredibly. I could die if I went on that. I really want to go on that. I might die. And if you went to a theme park and it had the James Bond ride or whatever, you're like, oh yeah, because I've seen it on the telly. But now people just wondering, oh yes, I'm very impressed with the branding. It's a good synergy with the franchise, and people just talk differently now.
And I've got
it's
a
just
beer
weird.
that fills up from the bottom.
And I've got a wet shoe because my name is Chris.
Come out. Yeah. We've all done it. We have all done it.
What's this thing do?
How do we turn a high-powered intellectual executive into a performing monkey? We'll give him a beer that fills up from the arse end of it.
What is this alchemy? What is this alchemy?
What planet are you from, witch?
Oh dear! But it becomes to something when you're talking more about that than you are about the football. That's the thing, isn't it? Because the football is like we started off with like last night was positive. And certainly in the second half was definitely very positive. But when you look at how badly we've been starved of any real success under Enix's tenure, one trophy in 25 years. I mean, like as you know, I went to Amsterdam a few weeks back, and I went to the Ajax Stadium. Yeah, you heard about that, just a tad. Yeah.
I mean, some of the photographic evidence of that trip has yet to really meet the public domain.
Well, I'm bound by confidentiality laws, non-disclosure agreement.
Busy deleting his WhatsApp with the other hand.
Was that cream okay?
Pardon?
Was that rash cleared up? Was that cream?
It's taking its time, mate. Let's put it that way.
That's what she said. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Am I interrupting you, mate? But I went into the trophy room at Ajax, and you've seen the pictures. That's what a proper trophy room looks like.
Yeah. And that blonde was in there.
Yes.
I hope they had the central heating on.
But did you have any Ajax players playing duck in a box with each other?
Playing duck in a box?
Yeah, didn't you see it the other day, Odeberg and Starling?
Yes. God. I'm saying, I thought you just had a stroke. Chris, I thought you just had a stroke, mate, or something.
I thought your aneurysm had come back.
Hey, duck in a box. Brought to you via YouTube and Tottenham Hotspur.
Oh, that was right. Yeah, honestly, that was just so embarrassing, wasn't it? That was just.
I kind of
good grief.
My memory file.
That was so embarrassing. That was just that. I'm sorry, but there's
a synergy right there. They should have We Are Tottenham TV, get the Spectrum brothers in, and they can have to try and work out if there is a duck in one of the boxes. I mean, that would be a great time.
Our social media team needs sacking, don't they? What about that?
No, they don't. They need stripping naked and hanging from lamppost by a piano.
Do you remember the one where the players were walking in and they were saying like, "Oh, hi Timo, who's the most famous person you've got on your mobile phone?" And it was like cringe TV, absolutely cringe TV.
It was dreadful, and the trouble is, they would have had a previous conversation, prompted the guys, and they still weren't able to give us anything that was being broadcastable. No, it's just it's all aimed at the lowest possible common denominator. That's the problem. But we've had that.
Well, here's a thought. Let's get some success, and the social media team can actually have something decent to talk about for a change, rather than having to fill the airwaves with this crap.
I mean, like I say, the best one was the other week after we got stuffed by somebody, and there was a radio silence for 24 hours, and then it was it Happy Birthday to that clown that's on loan somewhere, who's played 3 games for us. The guy with the shaggy haircut, black hair.
Brian Gill.
Brian Heel.
Brian Gill. That's it. Brian Heel. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Absolute waste of space. But this is, as you say though, Chris, this is the material they have to work with. That's the problem, because there is no success. And all we get are these rather tired sort of video montage things of Sonny's first 50 Premier League goals.
As the older, more mature man, you just see this gumph come out and you just have to laugh at it, because we are so far removed from how a professional football club runs itself. We've forgotten.
Well, careful now, because the marketing guys and one person said he had to laugh at it. So it's hitting our demographic. They found it amusing.
We've forgot what on-field success looks like. But our fans celebrate mediocrity. They celebrate all this shit, and they think it's fun, and they think it's a good idea, and they get behind it, as opposed to sitting there saying,
"You must be careful, Chris. You must be careful. The marketing gods won't like it. The marketing gods won't like it."
I mean, think of all those people that dance around. They go out to a football match.
They're Morris dance, aren't they?
Yeah, they go. You go out to a Morris dance and they build a football stadium around you. What the fucking odds are that? But yeah, I mean, all these with the buskers playing their ridiculous little ukulele or whatever they're doing. I mean, when did that become part of going to a football match? Just extraordinary.
And
I preferred it when they threw bricks at us.
Yeah. Having these singers in the stand under the stands and trying to generate like a common atmosphere. Excuse me, I went to watch the football. have a few beers, lay a cheeky bet on, and leave the stadium disillusioned and upset again.
Yeah.
I don't want a rendition of Sweet Caroline.
Right, gentlemen, I think we're very close to having time to wrap up. Any more? Do we have any more business, gentlemen, please?
Exciting wrap up today. I can't wait.
Is there an addition to the Spectrum Brothers we didn't know about?
We'll know what the upload looks like for us all.
That's what that. I told you it wouldn't take long for him to start showing off about the upload speed, didn't I? I told you it wouldn't take him long.
Oh, God Almighty!
There you go. Yeah.
And H, my bins get cleaned weekly, emptied. We haven't got any shit like you around here.
If you're gonna lead me into a conversation, a direction I didn't want to go in, I have a private company that take the refuse away from my property. Mind you, they're so shit you wouldn't really know the difference. But yes, but Birmingham is a total war zone at the moment, and the councillor, who I think I could be wrong, but I think he might be a Labour councillor, is currently in Japan.
Yeah,
and he went on a what was it, a fact finding mission. Some don't care what, probably some bi-curious thing. Went over there and tacked on an extra couple of weeks for his annual holiday.
Fair play.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Isn't that nice? Yeah. While the streets are on fire, and then he's going to come back to a social housing problem because they've got a lot of rats moved in from neighbouring villages and towns, and they don't have accommodation.
You should
People will think they want to live in the rubbish. No, that's just their fun fair. That's their playground. They need homing, So
get Daniel Levy over there because he's really good with vermin and stuff like that, isn't he?
And setting fire to businesses.
We really cannot go down this line of conversation.
So are you going to escape to the tranquility and serenity of, I don't know, Upminster for the weekend, or is that?
I'll see where Lady Luck takes me.
Yeah. all I can say. And on that note, all I can say is if he's coming down, if he's coming down to Essex, the IQ will have gone up by about 5%.
What, of Essex?
Yeah, basically.
It's like you two aren't spotted together in Essex, and people will think the Chuckle Brothers are out back.
The Spectrum Brothers Towie version.
Yeah.
Roy Chubby Brown's auditioning stuntmen.
So what's the scores? No, I'm not letting you get away that easy. Okay, what's the scores going to be on Sunday?
Oh, I'm going to go for a dramatic 1-0 win to the Tottenham. So 1-0 Spurs, 0-0. 0-0-1, as we say in the fatherland.
Oh, but I reckon I reckon I'm going to go 1-0 Wolves.
I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves.
But for which side will Solanke score?
It depends on the footballing gods. So
yeah, it's in the lap of the gods. That's all. It's in
the lap of the gods, mate. That's all we can say.
Is that it?
I think we are. I think we're done, mate. I think we're done.
And on that bombshell, good luck and keep it on them.
You can actually press the record button now.